Power 98.7, third hour of Power Breakfast. Tweets I see coming through. They can fast at I am Thabo Mdluli at Power FM 987 in this hour. We talk land reform successes due to good governance. The Vumelana Advisory Fund says due to the low levels of compliance with good governance by people who have benefited from the government land reform programs, slow pace of land reform can be attributed. The trust recommends that steps be taken to provide support for land reform benefactors in setting up good governance. Now, they argue that this will assist in attracting investors and as well as others who are going to have benefit on the issue of land reform. We will be touching base with Vumelana Advisory Fund in just a moment, but also coming up in this hour, the Gauteng's Health Department was reckless, says civil society group. Stephen Ngobo, provincial manager, treatment action campaign. Also, that has got to do with, of course, the deaths of, I believe it's now 37.
Is it 37 now?
Yeah, I think there was another one that was reported this week. Yeah, that was an absolutely tragic situation there. So people continuing to weigh in on that. And again, it comes to the issue of somebody needs to take responsibility ultimately of the lives that have been lost. So, treatment action campaign will be talking to us on that. But Peter Sito joining us now on the line, CEO of Vumelana Advisory Fund. Peter, good morning.
Good morning to you and your listeners.
Much appreciated. Thank you for your time. Look, we've been moving this target. This issue of land reform has been a moving target. I don't know where are we sitting now. Is the target still 2030 or is it 2050 when land need to have been transferred to previously disadvantaged people? I mean, what is the target?
Well, I suppose it's a bit difficult from our side. I mean, certainly
have been lost. So, treatment action campaign will be talking to us on that. But Peter Sito joining us now on the line, CEO of Vumelana Advisory Fund. Peter, good morning.
Good morning to you and your listeners.
Much appreciated. Thank you for your time. Look, we've been moving this target. This issue of land reform has been a moving target. I don't know where are we sitting now. Is the target still 2030 or is it 2050 when land need to have been transferred to previously disadvantaged people? I mean, what is the target?
Well, I suppose it's a bit difficult from our side. I mean, certainly there's the domain of the Department of Rural Development to make pronouncements on. However, one needs to indicate that as South Africans, we face a real dilemma in the sense that the process of land reform has proceeded too slowly to satisfy the post-liberation expectations. Much of the land that has been transferred to communities has become economically active. So if you like, the point that I'm really trying to drive across here is, whilst on the one hand it is imperative that land has got to be transferred to our communities, it is equally important that transferred land should remain productive. We have situations where productive assets which were bought by government have become desolate or run down. People have lost jobs, and the local economy got affected. This has also led to instability and resentment amongst the beneficiary communities. Vumelana, as a result, has identified a need to assist in resolving some of these challenges that lead to high failure rate of land transfers through supporting such communities to mobilize much needed investments to ensure that restored land is productive.
So what are your suggested interventions? I mean, there's CASP, there's mentorship, there are study groups. I mean, the agricultural sector has come up with various interventions so that land doesn't lie fallow. What is Vumelana suggesting?
Well, quite a number of things. I think it is important to also indicate who we are and what we actually do. We help communities or rather beneficiaries of land reform to develop their land. We do this through funding advisory services to structure commercially viable partnership between the beneficiary communities on the one hand and the investors, so that much needed jobs can be created and income for the community as well as skills development. Our work, if you like, is or could be regarded as complementary to what government is actually doing. One of our objectives is really to demonstrate the value of community-private partnership as a contributor to successful land reform.
Our triple Ps is not necessarily something new, so what is your new approach to triple Ps?
Well, it's not triple P per se. It's community-private. You have the community on the one hand having land, and you've got the investors on the other hand who've got the resources. The practical challenge with this is that the investment community generally regards, land reform space as being somewhat a risky environment to invest in. On the other hand, you've got the community who do not necessarily have the skills, but they've got the land, and they don't even have the technical know-how to go about actually mobilizing those.
So, in simple terms, what are you funding? I mean, people are going to get land. What projects are you prepared to fund?
What we are funding advisory services. Typically, we would, because of this unequal relationship between investors on the one hand and communities on the other hand, what we do, we appoint experienced and professional transaction advisors who would assist the communities to mobilize private investment. So what we do, we actually fund this transaction advisory service. We will pay a transaction advisor to assist the community to firstly do an assessment to see what is it that is possible, engage with the communities to really map out what is it that is possible in that land, issue out expression of interest to the investment community. Typically, our transaction advisors would have access to the investment community. So they would mobilize investments, as it were, and then from there assist in crafting the requisite arrangements and agreements between the community and the investors so that the land could be developed.
Why has, though, this not been happening from the beginning? I mean, it has always been known that we need to transfer land from these people to these people, and work needs to proceed. The system needs to carry on as it should have.
Well, I suppose right from the onset, when land reform was introduced during the advent of democracy, there was an expectation that that government will actually pay for everything. I think over time, all the key role players and stakeholders got to a realization that we cannot rely on government to go it alone, that government cannot do all of this alone. I mean, as you can imagine, there's a huge demand on the fiscus, from your social grants to your education, you name it,
Yes, carry on.
So over time, all the key and role players realized an important role and contribution that the private sector can actually play towards a successful land reform.
These advisors that you have, who are they? Is it the previous owners of the land? Is it white people probably that have an idea of what has been happening? Because we all know the land has been in their hands in the past, don't we?
Well, the advisors are not landowners. These are typically specialists. For example, if it's a project that is in the agriculture space, it would typically be somebody who's got a lot of experience on agriculture and related matters.
So they range from property developers, agricultural specialists, etc., or people who know how to get value out of land.
Absolutely.
All right.
Our advisors are independent, so they are not landowners. In fact, our advisors are not even required to be part of the transaction. All that they do is to mobilize investments and actually make sure that there is an arrangement and agreement between these two parties, i.e. the community and the investor.
Peter, let's leave it there. That's CEO of Vumelana Advisory Fund, Peter Sedo, talking about their intervention in as far as speeding up the process of land reform. Stephen Ngoba, I see already standing by, Provincial Manager at Treatment Action Campaign. A group of civil society organizations have penned an open letter to the Gauteng MEC of Health, Qedani Mahlangu, over the reckless placement of psychiatric patients, which has led to the deaths of about 37 now. We'll talk to him after this. Let's look at traffic.
Power traffic. And a very good morning to you once again. On the N12 westbound in Edenvale, we still have that earlier crash scene that's blocking the right lane just after the R24 highway merge, and that is still causing heavy traffic on both routes going towards the Galulis interchange, with the N3 also backed up on both directions going towards Galulis this morning. In Southgate, also on the N12 westbound, there's a crash scene at the Uncle Charlie's interchange that's also blocking the right lane and causing a heavy queue that starts as you pass Xavier Street, going past that incident, going towards the Diepkloof interchange. If you're north riding, Witkoppen Road eastbound is very slow from Malibongwe Drive if you're headed towards Fourways, due to an earlier crash scene at the Douglas Drive intersection. And if you're in Fourways already, William Nicol Drive southbound is also backed up between Witkoppen and the N1, with Leslie Avenue eastbound also backed up coming from the Douglasdale area going towards the William Nicol Drive intersection. And over in Randburg, lights are still out of order at Hans Koeman and Malibongwe. Heavy traffic that's coming from Rand Park Ridge on Easterhout Drive eastbound going towards that intersection, with Malibongwe Drive eastbound also heavily backed up from the north riding area getting into Randburg this morning.